Hi, welcome to this webinar today. It's about tips in designing true or false questions. It's good to start with a reminder about the vision of Silliman University. As you can see there, our vision says a leading Christian institution committed to total human development for the well-being of society and environment. Part of our mission in this university is to provide opportunities for growth and excellence in every dimension of the university life in order to strengthen character, competence, and faith. I'd like to continue by saying that the Bible paints a picture of several either-or situations to show two extremes. God created the heavens and the earth, light and darkness, Adam and Eve, and moving on, God's people saw the Red Sea open and close. Then Joshua, the protege of Moses, declared, "Choose you this day whom you will serve. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." The New Testament says that no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. That's found in Matthew 6:24. The choice we make today determines our tomorrow. In the same way, in a true or false assessment, the students have to make a choice. They couldn't write or click or shade both. They know and we know what happens if they do that. Our objectives today are the following: to present what researchers say about true or false questions, to cite some advantages and disadvantages of true or false questions, and to show some tips in writing these type of questions. Now, what does research say about true or false questions? Studies show that this type of question is notoriously unreliable for student assessment, but used outside of an exam context, they can enhance student engagement. True or false questions test the most basic level of knowledge, familiarity, that is. True or false questions don't test students' ability to recall information or demonstrate understanding. It merely tests the student's ability to recognize if a fact is familiar. That's what research says. But why are true or false questions so popular? Well, I think students love it, and instructors love it as well. Let's see why. By looking at the advantages and disadvantages of this type of assessment. For the advantages, it says here, true or false questions are well suited for the assessment of both the learner's retention of specific information from a course and their general understanding of the material. A learner can answer a large number of true or false questions within a short period of time. And I think that what studies are saying is that it is good to have about 75 items of true or false questions. Let's see later why is that. We have other advantages here. T and F questions can be constructed out of a few words, which makes them less dependent on the learner's ability to read carefully. Another advantage, it takes very little time to be answered. In fact, on average, a learner can answer 3 to 4 true or false questions per minute. And another one, true or false questions assist learners in acquiring and retaining new information. Furthermore, T or F questions take little time to construct and very easy to grade and very handy when you need to check whether learners hold any misconceptions about the material or misunderstand it. Now this time we will talk about disadvantages of this type of assessment. Many see results obtained with the help of true or false questions as dubious because of the high probability of a learner guessing the correct answer. And we have experienced that in our classrooms. Another disadvantage, the chances of getting a passing grade while relying purely on guesswork are slim, provided that the test contains a sufficient number of questions. And as I said earlier, the recommended number of questions should at least be 75. And another disadvantage is that this type of question is hard to accurately gauge a learner's actual understanding of the material, judging by the results of a test composed of true or false questions. Another one, learners have a 50% chance to guess the correct answer to every individual true or false question. So indeed, it's like a guessing game. And students can give wrong answers, but for different reasons. Yet, teachers will have no way of discerning this in a simple T or F test. Another set of disadvantages, students could give wrong final answers, even though the understanding of concepts is mostly there. It may just be a simple misreading of a word, say increase instead of decrease, or a misplaced focus that led them astray. But the worst weakness of the traditional T or F test is that student gets an answer correctly even though he or she arrived at that answer using faulty reasoning. I have just given you the advantages as well as the disadvantages of formulating true or false questions. And before we proceed, I want to give you a very important tip. And according to my slide, you need to link the question to the learning objective. That means that every true or false question should relate to the core learning. Figure out what you are trying to assess before you create each question so that you can align it with the desired outcome. For instance, if you want to determine if the learner grasps the key terminology, develop a series of true or false questions that consists of words and definitions. Ask your learners to determine whether the definitions are, in fact, accurate or inaccurate. That's according to Pappas in 2015. At this point, let me give you some suggestions for writing true or false questions. This will be some sort of an interactive thing. And here are the instructions. I will show you 6 different TNF questions. Then, using the chat box below your screen, please tell me why such statement is undesirable. So you need to explain why it is undesirable. I will give you 1 minute or 2 minutes to explain why it is undesirable. After each question, I will give you a tip to improve it, and I will offer an explanation why it can be improved that way. So are you now ready? Can you type yes to your chat box, please? Okay, good, good. So question number 1. Why is this TRF question undesirable? True or false? Nearsightedness is hereditary in origin. Nearsightedness is hereditary in origin. You have a minute to answer why the statement is undesirable. And as I said, use the chat box to explain why this is so. Okay, let your answers come in. You have 10 more seconds to do that. Okay, that's it. And let's see. Okay, thank you for your explanations. And in this slide, we're offering a tip to improve that statement. So a more desirable one would be geneticists and eye specialists believe that the predisposition to nearsightedness is hereditary. Now, the explanation is that you need to base true or false items upon statements that are absolutely true or absolutely false without qualifications or exceptions. I hope that's clear. So let's move on to the next slide. Again, you need to answer the question why this is undesirable, and you need to explain in your chat box. Let me read this now. True or false? All employees must wear their approved uniforms and carry the sales handbook with them at all times. Okay, you have a minute to do that. Okay, keep your answers coming in. Just for fun. You will not be graded if you don't get the right answer. Okay, I think you need less than a minute to do that. Let's see how we can improve this question. Now, if you look at this statement, it seems that there are 2 ideas here loaded in one single statement. What are these ideas? That all employees must wear their approved uniforms. And then another idea is that they should carry the sales handbook with them at all times. Now, this is undesirable because a true or false question must express a single idea in each test item. So what you can probably do here is that you split this statement into 2 items, test items. Okay? Now, why again is this TNF question undesirable? You have a minute to answer. Why? And let me read the statement. True or false? The second principle of education is that the individual gathers knowledge. The second principle of education is that the individual gathers knowledge. Okay, you have a minute to do that, or less than a minute. Okay, you can just make a guess. Anyway, I'm not going to score you. Now let's see. How can we improve this statement that says the second principle of education is that the individual gathers knowledge? A more desirable one would be, according to John Dewey, the second principle of education is that the individual gathers knowledge. Now, why is this more desirable? Because we need to include enough background information and qualifications so that the ability to respond correctly to the item does not depend on some special or uncommon knowledge. So, there you are. I have shown you the improved question. This time, I have 3 questions for you, and you need, again, to determine why these questions are undesirable. True or false? All sessions of Congress are called by the President. 2. The Supreme Court frequently rules on the constitutionality of the law. And 3rd, an objective test is generally easier to score than an essay test. As you can see, there are suggested answers there. But I want you to focus on the italicized words in these 3 questions. The words all for the first question, frequently, the second question, and generally in the 3rd question. Let's see what's wrong with these questions. Now, the words all, frequently, and generally fall under any of the categories that you see on your screen. Extreme modifiers for the first column and extreme qualifiers for the second column. Therefore, there's a need for you to cancel out extreme modifiers or qualifiers as well. So what are these? All, none, always, never, only, nobody. And for the qualifiers in the second column, you need to avoid the words usually, frequently, often, sometimes, some, or seldom, and so on and so forth. For the 5th question, here it is. True or false? For every action, there is an opposite and equal reaction. Now, why is this statement undesirable? Probably I can give you 30 seconds to determine why. Okay, a few more seconds. Now let's see. Thanks for your answers. So now, how can we improve this T or F question? For every action, there is an opposite and equal reaction. Because this really sounds like it was lifted from a certain text or book that you used. So a more desirable statement would be, if you were to stand in a canoe and throw a life jacket forward to another canoe, chances are your canoe would jerk backward. Now, why is this a more desirable one? Because the tip is you need to avoid lifting statements from the text, lecture, or other materials so that memory alone will not permit a correct answer. Number 6, again, why is this undesirable? True or false? According to some politicians, the raison d'etre for capital punishment is retribution. I'll give you less than 1 minute to answer why the statement above is undesirable. Again, please use the chat box to explain why. Go. Okay. More responses, please. I'm not going to give you points if you don't get it right. Okay, 4 seconds. And let's see. How can we improve that? You need to avoid the use of unfamiliar vocabulary. So in this case, what is the unfamiliar word there? I think that is the word raison d'etre. I think it's a French word. And a more desirable one would be stated this way. According to some politicians, justification for capital punishment is retribution. Okay, moving on. Let me give you more tips then. Keep language as simple and clear as possible. 2. Use a relatively large number of items. The suggested number is 75 or more when the entire test is true or false. So if there are other types of tests, maybe you can lessen the number, maybe 50 or 30. That depends upon you. And third here, be aware that extremely long or complicated statements will test the reading skill rather than content knowledge. So avoid that. More tips for you. Present the correct part of the statement first and vary the truth or falsity of the second part. Next, make true and false items of approximately equal average length throughout the test. Next, randomize the sequence of true or false statements. In other words, you don't have to create a pattern. I remember I had a teacher before, and this was how she arranged the answers. 1 to 5 false, 6 to 10 true, 11 to 15 false, and so on and so forth. So that's the pattern, and I think one reason why she did that is that for her to check it, easily. But yeah, it says here you need to randomize the sequence of your statements. And next, make use of popular misconceptions or beliefs as false statements. So, my dear colleagues, I have just presented to you what research say about true or false questions. And in connection to that, I have cited some advantages and disadvantages of using TNF questions. And some tips were shown to assist you in writing correct, true, or false questions, or a more desirable set of questions. So there you are. We're almost done. Although most students prefer true and false questions, these types of questions can be really very tricky. I have given you some tips so that your students can accurately make the correct answer, and consequently the teacher can accurately rate the students pass or fail. And let me end this session by saying that in the Bible, the offer of the free gift of salvation through Jesus Christ also requires us to choose to accept it or reject it. Man has the freedom to say yes or no to the free gift. In the same way, students have the freedom to answer true or false to the teacher's question. And the teacher has the freedom as well to pass or fail the students based on their responses. Thank you for your time and have a nice day.